Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So I guess I've got 10 minutes speed dating to tell you about Hexagon, as I've often used one of the biggest technology companies you've never heard of. So moving to Hexagon at a glance. So as I said, it's one of the larger technology companies you've probably never heard of. So more than 20,000 employees. Obviously, that's not in the miners, just in the mining segment. So in mining, we have about 680 at the moment. So very R&D focused, very much based on monitoring solutions and technology and IT solutions. So while 10 to 12% of net sales go into R&D, in mining it's about 15 to 18%. So we're a bit more focused in R&D in mining at the moment. And very strong financials. Big company. In terms of the Hexagon businesses, I wouldn't even know the whole breadth of the businesses that we get involved in. And I go to these shows and I learn more about the things that Hexagon does. And so for the last show I went to, I found out that 91% of commercial aircraft use a Hexagon technology in their development and creation, and 85% of cars use Hexagon technology. So that's on the metrology division, so all those very fine measurements. If you want to look at curvature of the blades that are going into your turboprops and so on, that's where those metrology solutions get used. In terms of the geospatial landscape, we're in that part with mining, so geosystems, so Leica Geosystems is you'll see a lot of that survey equipment. That's one of our solutions. Precision intelligence, agriculture, geospatial. So if you look at iPhones and you basically go into the Google Maps equivalent of the iPhones, a lot of those city maps come from our solutions. So we provide that data to Apple. And then mining and safety and infrastructure. So I'll focus more on mining. So integrated digital mine solutions. So again, like I've seen this recurring theme through the conference has been great, is this whole thing about digital solutions and data. It's obviously coming, and certainly we intend to be at the forefront of development of applications and solutions for you guys involved in that. If you look at the timeline, so what you might have heard of, where you've heard of Hexagon Mining. So MineSight was one of the first companies to ever develop general mine planning packages, so using computers to basically do mine planning. So there's a company out of Tucson. So if you worked in the US or a lot of the Americas, you'll basically have used MineSight to do your mine planning packages. Not so used in Australia, but dominant, as I said, in the Americas. A lot of guys would have probably first come into a Hexagon company by working with Tritronics. So Tritronics developed dragline solutions out of Brisbane. So they were widely used in the industry. And then Leica purchased Tritronics and Jigsaw, so that was the fleet management systems. DevX probably is one of the groups that we don't hear much of, mainly working in the underground solutions. And then SafeMine is the collision avoidance technology that is widely used around the world. And then MyPlan and Guardvant, MyPlan looking at enterprise solutions and introduction of fleet management systems, low-cost systems, and then Guardvant is probably the number one provider of fatigue solutions in the industry at the moment. So why you never heard of Hexagon is, for a long time, Hexagon has acquired companies and they left them alone. That changed in 2015 when they finally decided, well, let's bring these companies together, and rather than focus on just buying companies, let's integrate these companies and start working on R&D to basically get better solutions from these guys working together. So that has very much been the focus of Hexagon Mining is, yes, they still will acquire companies, and I have no doubt if I give this presentation a year from today, there'll be another company or two that we'll have acquired. But the focus with the R&D is starting to integrate those different pieces. How do we basically help the industry through that integration? So the Hexagon's mission, delivering digital solutions to improve productivity and quality across manufacturing, infrastructure, safety, and mobility applications, and mining being one of those. The vision, to aspire to be the leader in creating autonomous connected ecosystems. So for those who went to my talk yesterday, I mentioned that this ACE, this autonomous connected ecosystems. So just like we've seen many presentations about, we're getting more and more of this data, gigabytes, terabytes of information. The fact is we know we can't analyze that data. And so what our focus is, and was a lot of R&D focuses in, how do we provide autonomous ways to automate that analysis of that data to give you information to provide those solutions. So when we look at the mining, our commitment is creating safer, more productive mines by developing integrated life of mine solutions that optimize design, planning, and operations. So when I look at the breadth of digital solutions, and obviously we can't go through them all, pick one that you're interested in, we probably do it. So while there's software, particularly just on the mine planning, then a lot of the stuff is software and hardware. One of the advantages of having a larger group is that we obviously have integrated hardware development teams. So at the board level, electronics, we basically working at robust industrial solutions for a number of different industries, and we get to use that in mining. And all this goes into this enabled enterprise platform. So that's one of the big focuses. How do we bring all this information together? How do we serve that to you guys as customers so you can get value from it? So a couple of quick case studies that come out of the last 12 months. So on the mine planning side, basically 35 million was raised in basically looking at a redesign of the mine planning, so optimizing what they can do. Another one with the Jigsaw fleet management systems and looking at health monitoring. They basically increased production by 11 million tonnes and come from monthly trips to the fueling station. So that's one of the big things that we see is if you can optimize, you can basically massively increase productivity, and by fueling is one of the things that they do. And then on the safety side, obviously, the collision avoidance, that safe mine system, the collision avoidance is probably the most used system in the world. In January, it was up to 38,000 vehicles. There's been a couple of big sales since, so I fully expect we'll hit that 40,000 vehicle mark in terms of active user sometime later this year. And obviously, as well as making things safer, avoiding metal-on-metal contacts has a significant economic impact to a mine as well, which we're trying to help people. So there's a nice little quote that I'll let you read that. When I look at the collision avoidance, what we're seeing is, for the guys who know a little bit about it, with the immersion, you have different levels of control. So we're fully developed at level 9, so we're starting to take control of the braking of the truck. So there's a mine where that's been rolled out, a second mine, both in South Africa. We're probably a little bit ahead of the game in terms of the government pushing those regulations. So we're starting to see those solutions, and I have no doubt we'll start to develop some and see some of those solutions of active braking and control of trucks in the coming months or years in Australia as well. So obviously, big support teams. We have to be 24/7, around the world, follow the sun. Highly educated, multifaceted staff. We need to have mining people, and we have plenty of mining people. And best knowledge-based system in the business. And that's really, when you look at the R&D, that's one of the key things that we've been building up is that knowledge base. And that's where our future is going to be. Same thing with service and training. What we find is that, yes, the mines can buy these technologies, but we've got to help with the change management, the training, otherwise you won't get the most from those systems. And whether it's helping with consulting, that's something that, again, we spend a lot of effort in building up those services at the moment. Last but one slide. So if you look at where the offices are, and it's obviously already a little bit out of date, so we have a new office that's opened up in Newcastle, and also we have a new office which is going to open up in Colombia, another one in Balikpapan. But as I said, I'm sure we're closer to 700 employees. I can't keep track of where all we are. Thank you for listening. 5 seconds left.
Thanks, Neal. Any questions before we finish this particular session? No questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Neal. Cheers.